The topic of this video is active listening. Now, when I think of listening, the first quote that comes to mind for me from Nancy Klein, who says that the quality of our attention determines the quality of other people's thinking. She's saying that if we actually are really giving good listening attention to somebody else, that generates better thinking in the thinker. And I don't know about you, but that's certainly my experience, that if I'm with somebody who seems distracted, impatient, inattentive, like they're more interested in what they want to say to me than actually what I'm trying to say, it really impacts and limits the quality of my thinking. And another little introductory quote that I thought would be useful, the Harvard Business Review has published an article just in the last few months that was saying that good listeners amplify, energize, and clarify your thinking. And the contrast they were making is that typically people have often thought about listening being a bit like being a sponge, trying to absorb and take in information. And they were saying actually a better metaphor is more like a trampoline. It's partnering someone in a way that amplifies that experience. It energizes that experience. And through that it helps clarify and actually generate new thinking. So we've got two quotes there which are both talking about listening in a way that shows that it can be really creative, that it really adds value. Contrary to popular opinion, listening is not a passive activity, it is the most active thing you can do. So if active listening is a kind of listening that is not just passive, it's not just trying to absorb information, but it is making it clear to the thinker that we're accompanying them as they think, and also that's helping to energize, to amplify and to clarify their thinking. How are we going to go about it? I'm going to share with you 3 techniques to do that. The first is our old friend empathy. Empathy is about being able to see it from their point of view. Doesn't necessarily mean agreeing with it, and it doesn't mean communicating sympathy or compassion, like suffering with them. We know now that neurologically that what goes on in our brains actually sort of synchronizes when we're speaking together. So we've got these things called mirror neurons, which create what scientifically is called neural resonance. And when we're empathetic, we're being open to our kind of brain circuitry synchronizing. The second skill is mirroring. A good mirror shows us more of what we look like. This second technique, it's designed to reflect back to the thinker what they look like, what they sound like, what they're saying. Specifically in terms of active listening, around 3 things. So words, tone of voice, and body language. Now, if you are present with somebody face to face, it's helpful to let your body language be appropriate, but to be similar to the other person. It just unconsciously helps them feel trusting and to feel like you're aligned and that you're in sync. If we're wanting to build that rapport, it's a helpful thing to do. Chris Voss goes as far as to say that of the entirety of the FBI's hostage negotiation skill set, mirroring is the closest one gets to a Jedi mind trick. Verbal mirroring is when you replay the critical words of what someone has just said, and for our purposes, in as few words as possible. Literally 1 to 3 words, if possible. One of the ICF competencies that we're linking to this session is the ability to summarize and reflect back to clients to build their awareness of what they're saying. And here, mirroring is like the lightest touch version of doing that, of repeating back to the client just a word or 3 words that helps give them in their own words, with their own tone, their own gestures, what they've just said, which might provide just enough information to unlock the next step in their thinking. And the last active listening skill that we're going to touch on today is labeling. And this is really naming what you notice. It's a skill of making what's implicit explicit. So what you're seeing, what you might be feeling, what you might be picking up on, having a go of naming what you notice in a way that raises awareness for the client. Labeling is a way of validating someone's emotion by acknowledging it. Give someone's emotion a name and you identify with how that person feels. So in our active listening, we're going to come open and receptive to the coachee, being attentive and present so that our mirror neurons are available to synchronize with the coachee. We're going to be non-judgmentally curious, but in a non-attached way, not so curious about where exactly we're going, but curious and open to accompany the coachee on wherever their thinking needs to take them. We're going to aim to mirror them, so mirror them appropriately with our body language, with our energy, with our tone of voice, but also we're going to specifically think about repeating back to them at the right time a word or two as a means of showing them that we're still with them on the journey and giving them just enough data through that reflecting back what they've just said to keep moving forward. And lastly, we're going to label. We're going to name what we notice, which is a way of allowing feelings to come into the coaching work in a constructive way, in a way that's raising awareness and helping them notice what emotional energy they have around different thoughts or ideas.